Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. Welcome. I hope everybody's had a great weekend. We come to you on a somber note. We are not actually supposed to be broadcasting today here on the Shout Out Show. We were officially on hiatus, but with the urgency and the profundity of the mass shooting in Buffalo, I kind of felt like, I had to speak my mind on this and just share some thoughts clearly. Clearly, people are aware. They're aware of the things that have happened. They are, and I have to say that they bothered me. So sometimes I actually had to call Sister Satana. I was like, "Are we still on hiatus?" She was like, "Yeah," and I had already scheduled the show. But sometimes when you have things that bother you, that actually stir your conscience, you do have to get them out. And I think this whole concept of being woke and things like that, it does not benefit us, understanding that people believe in they esteem us to be folks that are asleep, that this type of thing that happens in Buffalo, brothers and sisters, is the work of people who believe that we are asleep, that we are somehow not at the helm of our boat. We are not steering our own vehicles for justice. We are not protecting ourselves. And as a result, we keep seeing these things happen over and over and over again. And I want to be very specific because, the overall gravitas of this thing happening is the fact that we've been seeing it over and over and over. The attack on Black justice, the attack on Black freedom has been ongoing. It has been unrelenting. If you look at the laws, if you look at the fashioning of how the government treats us, how they are now, brothers and sisters, you're talking about Roe versus Wade, they are now removing rights. And if they can do it with Roe versus Wade, of course they can do it with voting rights. Of course they can do it with fair housing. Of course they can do it with education. And we should not sit here and believe that somehow, someplace, that the behavior is going to change. It is not going to change. The first year of the Shout Out Show, I did a show called White Supremacy, Serial Killers in Dollar Stores. White supremacy, serial killers, and dollar stores. And I talked about the makeup, that the danger between the white supremacist and the serial killer is at some point in time, they were going to be able to evolve what looks like an opportunity to share the beliefs along with the public. That somehow opportunity beliefs and the environment, listen to me, the environment now emboldens these people to do these things. Literally, they can go, this young boy, 18 years old, hear me now, 18 years old, sounds like the boy up in Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin. We are now turning out a generation of young monsters who have been indoctrinated to believe that somehow, some way, that this is the American way. I'm Muslim. I am Muslim, and I watch generations of young Muslims who grew up in a post 9/11 world believing that it's okay to oppress Muslims. And I watch young Black men and women who grow up in a world where they believe that it's okay for Blacks to be oppressed and opportunities to be. We are fighting for things that were fought over 40, 50 years ago. And it's coming to them as a new revelation. I told everybody about the history books. The history books are now erasing the fact that you had people who stood, who were stand-up people, who gave their lives for this American dream that was not the white American dream, but in fact, an honest, a pure American dream that was backed by things by religious edict. It was backed by things like compassion. It was backed by things by the fact that they knew this was a world that did not want them, but however, they figured out a way to exist. And over and over and over again, let me be clear that the scope of white supremacists, the scope of serial killers, and the fact that they would go to kill black people at a supermarket. I'm not saying it was a dollar store, but here's the deal. You get checks on when? The 1st and the 15th. This is a young boy that's figured this out. And he's watching television like Fox and Tucker Carlson, and these white people talk about concepts like the great replacement theory. I told you here on this show years ago, the problem with white folk is that they grow up in this American exceptionalism, and it's built upon the fact that they don't have heart. They don't have soul, brothers and sisters, that tells them that you are defective in the way that you think. You have been defective in the way that you treat people. Here in the United States, abroad, whether it's here, Africa, you have been defective. And if we were to leave this earth, black people, Native Americans, Asians, if we left them to themselves, they would kill themselves. That's how they got here in the United States in the first place. Brothers and sisters, it's not for me to sit here and go through history. If I have to merely go to last weekend, and make no mistake, this is not the last time. This is not the last time. This is just the military show, the guns. Meanwhile, you have people who are trying to choke you off in a legislative exercise to make sure that you don't have opportunities. You know, we're going to take a break. But let me say this and be really, really clear. One of my big problems with white America, and one of my big problems with a lot of white people I met in my lifetime, let's just put it out there. Do I trust white America? Absolutely not. I'm going to put it out. Absolutely not. I've been raised not to trust white America because I see who white America is. And I am always in fear of people who are inferior dealing with people who are not even thinking they're inferior. They're just better. They're just fundamentally better. They're just fundamentally stronger. They're just fundamentally more logic, more moral. And we watch the attack happen to these people. In America, brothers and sisters, and I've said this, white America exists and subsumes in some level on this whole idea of zero-sum relationships. If a white man he makes $10 selling lemonade, and I'm in another part of the country, and I make $100 selling lemonade, in his mind, I took $90 from him. In his mind, somehow, some way, I cheated him out of $90. We're not talking about the work ethic, the advertising, the marketing, the quality of the project. In his mind, all he knows is that Negro took $90 from me. And when we talk about this great replacement theory, let me tell you the danger of this, folks. The danger of it is they will talk about Black people replacing them, Latinos replacing them, and Native Americans replacing them, and Asians replacing them. Here's the deal. For the last 150 years, they've been replacing themselves. And they've been replacing themselves with a less, I want to say, more and more inferior rendition of themselves. COVID allowed this whole thing to gestate. But let me be honest. I saw it coming. There are people here on the show that saw it coming. And it's over and over and over again. We watched a militia try to kidnap a governor in Michigan, and damn near nobody went to jail. Why do you think that is? That the FBI couldn't launch a case. This is the same FBI that bugged Martin Luther King, the same one that instigated the breakup between Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. This is the same powerful government, and they couldn't put a case together against a bunch of avowed militia folk who were caught in the act. They were caught in the act. And to me, when you catch them in the act and you can't prosecute, it means that you're a part of that situation. It means they have something to tell on you. We're going to be back today, brothers and sisters. Stay tuned here on the Shout Out Show. Thank you for tuning in for this special segment. Preacher Moss. All right, we're back. I want to make sure I'm not remiss. Want to make sure we have all the people in the Shout Out Show family that tuned in, even though we're on hiatus. Thank you. That's just a powerful reminder that, sometimes when you got to circle wagons, you got to ring that bell for the community to come together. It's nice that we can come together. So let me give a shout out. This is Mama Son, better known as Mary Moss, saying hello, S.O.S family. Hello to you, Mom. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nice you can make it. Shout out brother Eric Carter. Brother, I have you sorted out. I just need to work with Satana because you do have something coming on your iftar. Mark, you also have something coming for iftar too. I'll send you yours because I have your information. All right. But wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brother Eric, thank you so much for tuning in. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My main man, Mark candidate, Janani Locks. Thank you so much for tuning in to this special segment of the Shout Out Show. We will not be going in order today. This was so random. Sister Satana can't even join us today, but she sends her goodwill. All right. And we also want to give a shout out my main man, Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, Altaf Rashid, all the way from Canada, our Canadian ambassador. How you doing, brother, man? Thank you so much. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh for joining us on the show today. I promise, brothers and sisters, that I will keep this at a half hour. But I feel like these are the things and looking at the world that made me a better teacher, better comedian, better human being, because we look in the face of ugly. The one thing about teaching severely most disturbed children is, that they're there through a process, and it's a very ugly process. And you look at education as a benchmark. Education is a benchmark in the way that we hold it as something true and dear to us, that it's a pathway to success. It's a pathway to evolving. It's a pathway to building a community. Much the same as, when you're renting, your next step up is to get a house. In education, first grade, second grade, third grade, up to 12th grade, college, that's the way it is. But it's not that way. It's not that way. That there are obstacles and barriers and closed doors that young people are dealing with in the first and second and third grade experience. They're dealing with these things. This man, Mr. Peyton Gertrude, or whatever his name is, Killer, is a man that's 18 years old. We're talking about his parents. Did he come from a broke down background? No, he didn't come from a broke down background. 2 parents, intact family, both engineers. They say that he was a red flag because he started writing papers about murder-suicide. They said the guy was really smart, but after COVID, he changed. That's according to 2 people, young people that knew him. But understand this methodology to how we get here in Buffalo. The methodology, brothers, this is something that the Klan used to do and continues to do. That when the hate and the festering happens, there are no people of color around. There are no people to offer logic or difference of opinion. You take 200 fools in a room and lock them in a room for 2 days, you're going to get foolish things. It is the same thing. And the launch pad begins where we have people who are, quote unquote, in positions of knowledge and influence who peddle, if you will. They peddle these weird theories. They peddle these weird conspiracies because it sells. It sells. And if anyone wants to go back and look at the first year we did the Shout Out Show, the episode of white supremacy, serial killers, and dollar stores, what did I say? that all of this evolves, and this has to do with zero-sum relationships here in the United States, particularly with white exceptionalism and American exceptionalism. It has to deal with behavioral economics. Behavioral economics. And this is the fact that ties into this whole thing of course, replacement theory, that white people who weren't doing anything anyway, they feel like they're going to be replaced. Why? Because they know in their heart of hearts, if it were an open competition, they wouldn't win. They wouldn't win. I call it the Jesse Owens theory, that you can cheat Jesse Owens. You can let somebody start a little bit ahead of him, or you can make him start later. But when it's competition, he's going to cross the finish line before you. And that is the existence that's the whole scope of Black existence and people of color existence, that you start off at a deficit, but then you still win. And so that the people who were thinking they're going to win because you're starting in a deficit, you're starting in a hole, it creates a whole nother of anxiety, a whole nother level of anxiety, and they can't explain it to themselves. You can't explain it to yourself that you kept a whole population in slavery. But within 150 years, they produce the technology, the scholarship to turn around and challenge you on your own laws in your own white courts. You can't handle that. That you take music, that you take art, and you frame it in a way you want to, and you give yourself the buffers of the law, but then youth come along and they create something totally different. And you have to create new laws to protect you, and new laws to continue that you can feed on these people. That's behavioral economics. Now, on the other side of it, we have to understand that this scope of behavioral economics has to stop. We cannot believe, brothers and sisters, that people are going to continue to make bad decisions, historically and critically bad decisions, in the hopes that someplace that they're going to work it out. They are not going to work it out. The body of work is horrible. Look behind me. Look behind me. This is June. This is January. The insurrection. We don't have anybody going to jail because of the insurrection. You know why? Because the people who have to prosecute are some of the people, the same people that believe in this type of stuff. And I've said it before. You look at some of these old white faces in Congress. Don't look at these old white faces. Look at their voting records. Their voting records from the 60s, the 70s, some of the 50s. Look at how they voted. They didn't do anything to change. All they did was tweak this and this that allows them to continue to do what they do. They haven't changed. And we'll sit here 5-10 years later talking about the same thing. Hey, did you hear that? That's the ghost of George Floyd. We're not talking about him. Did you hear that? That's the ghost of Breonna Taylor. Because you don't hear it, brothers and sisters, because it's a very choreographed thing. I said the one thing about serial killers, and I will say this, and please, they are patient. This boy wasn't a mass murderer. He's a serial killer. If there was a way to kill blacks and go back into obscurity and anonymity and come back and do it again, he would have done it. That's what his 180-page manifest talks about. Being a part of society, being in plain sight as a killer, and then going back and killing. His idea was to kill, and dig this part, brothers and sisters. This boy lives almost 3 hours away from Buffalo, towards the Pennsylvania line. This direction, or this location for this massacre, it's chosen. He said he wanted to find out the zip code with the most black people in it, and it was Buffalo at 78% black. That's how he winds up at a supermarket. That's why he winds up at a supermarket. And he's at a supermarket we never heard before. We've never heard before until this point. And if you start really, really thinking about it, it's so predatory, it's scary. That I wonder, what is it you do in your predatory nature, in your predatory communities, before you unleash yourself on the blacks or the Muslims or the Asians or the Native Americans. Come on, brothers and sisters. Where's your history books? You hear that? That's the power in the population of the Native Americans that we don't even hear. We don't even talk about them, brothers and sisters, because it becomes so passe that the violence that we're seeing now is meant for us to get used to it. To get used to it. I remember stories, brothers and sisters, of white men in Illinois riding up in their cars to black people and shooting them. This is not new. This is not new. And I'm not talking, and we're talking about Ahmaud Arbery, that case, that white man chased this black boy down and tried to make a quote unquote citizen's arrest. We are seeing the beginning of the end of democracy and justice for people who are not white. So let me throw this in. For African Americans, it's time to get serious. I've never advocated this before, but I'm going to advocate it now. And anybody that wants to jump in, you can jump in. I know I'm rambling, but we have to start setting up our perimeters now. That the hood needs to be a neighborhood. That the hood needs to have a galvanizing thing where we put down our arms and start killing each other, and we set up perimeters. We have neighborhood watches. We have coalition auxiliary. We have our own militia that makes sure that people who are trying to come into our community, they get checked. You just don't roll into our community. I mean, hell, there are neighborhoods we can't go into. I remember neighborhoods my parents say, hey, don't be in that side of town. There are hotels that we couldn't go into, and we were conditioned to the point that we didn't even go in. Don't go around that white girl. We were conditioned to the point we didn't say why. We said, okay, which white girl? And now, brothers and sisters, you have people who are infiltrating our neighborhoods to do nothing but harm and create chaos and pain. Well, Buffalo, you need to set up 150,000 Negroes with arms around Niagara Falls and circle Buffalo. And anybody who wants to come through Buffalo, they come through one space, and we check them like they do in Palestine and Gaza. You ain't getting in here unless you know somebody or we're affiliated with you. And we're going to check you. I know that sounds bad, but I'm going to throw it out there. It's true. DC needs to do the same thing. Where there are large populations of black folk, you need to set up your perimeter and stop playing. These people are not here to help you. And as you get more and more to the point, it starts. Listen, this is how cold-blooded it is. It starts with quote unquote gerrymandering to make sure that you and your vote don't matter. Well, we need to do some reverse gerrymandering just to protect our women and our children and our way of life and our education and our opportunities. We need to do that. And for the first time, I've never said it. Mark knows this. My mother knows this. Damn it, you're going to have to pick up a gun. You're going to have to pick up a gun or a butcher knife or pitchfork, but you got to arm yourself because these people are looking at behavioral economics thinking, oh, these black folks won't arm themselves. And as we get assaulted and disrespected, hoping now that they're going to have an epiphany about we're all one people, it ain't going to happen. You know what I thought about when this thing happened? I thought about that no good, dirty white boy, that dirty old fade that walked into that church in South Carolina and prayed with those people, then pulled out a pistol and killed them. Hear what I say? And the police took him for a burger after they arrested him, allegedly. What does that say? It says these people don't have souls. They don't have souls. They don't have logic. They don't have morals. It is against our constitutional aspect of human excellence to continue to believe that people who don't have it or are not trying to pursue it somehow have our interests at heart. Can't do it anymore. On this show, I said, you know what? African Americans need to bear arms. Is that what I need to say, Mark? African Americans need to bear arms because these people have absolutely no reticence for picking up a pistol and shooting a black person in the head. None. We watch it in the auspices of law enforcement. Now we're watching it in the auspices of somebody who has a manifesto. And he mentions all the other places where they have mass killings, Norway, New Zealand, as templates and justification for what he's trying to do. I'm going to play this for you. I'm just going to play it for you. I want you to listen to it. Okay, just check it out.
Entitlement of white folks. And what I mean by that is this. You have a pocket of white folks in this country who feel some kind of way because they have to exist amongst everybody else. And within that existing amongst everybody else, they have to share the same resources. And even though they still receive the majority of the benefits, the privileges, and everything that makes life so great and so dandy, they still feel like they have lost something because just by other people having a fraction of what they have, it's still too much. And so they get into these pockets where they feel that their world is ending, and they jump into these random thought points about white erasure and look at declining birth rates. And rather than attributing declining birth rates to the fact that the United States stopped investing in its people, it stopped investing in things like housing, education, healthcare, jobs, fair wages, things that make people want to procreate and be in a space where they know that their offspring will be okay if they bring people into this world. They want to look at it as the country's getting browner, the white majority is going down, we're losing everything, we're losing our politics, we're losing our free speech, so on and so forth. And then comes the rage, then comes the violence, then comes everybody to blame, but the very institutions that they created that pretty much caved in on themselves. Instead of blaming that, they want to blame everybody else. And so in Buffalo, it was black folks. And again, black folks continue to be collateral to white rage, white anger, white fear, white choices, their foolery, the inferiority complexes that exist. And again, punitive entitlement. When I say punitive entitlement, I'm speaking about the fact that when people don't get their way, they want everybody else to suffer because they feel that if they can't have something, nobody should even have the right to even live. That's what you're seeing right now. And one thing I don't want to hear, because I've already seen it in the media, they're starting conversations about mental health. And what happened in Buffalo is not a mental health issue. Let's clear that up right now. First of all,
if you shop on Amazon, you should use this tool.
Very interesting that they decided to put that commercial there, huh? But the young man is right. I wanted to put a young man on there because I'm an old man. Well, I'm getting old. But you see the difference now is people have created a condition for something to happen in Buffalo, and we'll be outraged and we'll be furious for about a month, for about a 3-week news cycle. And then it'll be on to the next thing. Someone else gets killed, or we'll be back to Ukraine or something like that. Because we've been desensitized. And I say desensitized, I mean we've been desensitized to the point where not that when we look at something, it doesn't have an effect on us. It's that we look at something and we're not willing to investigate anymore. That we've willingly given away our investigative prowess to find out the truth about these situations, to dig a lot deeper than what the news gives you, than what CNN gives you, than what Fox gives you. I'm talking about the wherewithal to put together, not a conspiracy, but put together a well thought out understanding of what's going on around you. Like I said, this boy in Buffalo, 18 years old. The boy in Kenosha is 19 years old. What are they reading? Spiritually and emotionally and intellectually, what are they consuming to put themselves in a situation where at these very young ages they have guns and they walk around with these guns believing that they have purpose? And part of that purpose is extracting joy from people, to take life as a way to establish supremacy. These are the things that are bothering us. Let me give a shout out. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Brother JT. This is a special special edition of the Shout Out Show because we're still on hiatus. Just so you guys know, I will be going back on hiatus as of tomorrow, but I couldn't let this ride. I couldn't let it ride because if I waited till next week, y'all might not even be thinking about this, but I'm thinking about it. So listen, that's our show for today. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for tuning in on this special edition of the S.O.S. We said domestic terror, Buffalo. It's not a question. Buffalo, it's a declarative statement. Buffalo should be a warning to blacks. And I said what I said, and Mark has this right here. And I agree. African Americans have the same constitutional rights, duty to protect themselves, families, and businesses. The question is, what is the best way to do this? Well, Mark, I know we lobby back and forth, but I said here something I thought I would never say, and that is black folk need to arm themselves. They need to protect themselves. JT has said that we need to set up our own perimeters around our houses, around our communities. They want to put us in spaces and call them ghettos. If you surround them and you have them well armed and protected, they're not ghettos. They're forts. They're bunkers. They are meant to protect life, liberty, and justice. So I think we need to do that. So look, I'm gonna jump off because I said I was gonna be a half hour. I don't want to be a liar, but thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Shout Out Show. God bless you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here at the correct time. at the correct time. All right, assalamu alaikum.